So as you guys know, hand traps have become a really prominent part of this game. They got introduced, years ago. We've always had things like YGOPro, and then, cards like Effect Veiler, of course, came along, and Max C, and, it got itself limited. So hand traps have been really prevalent, really powerful. But now more than ever, I think, is really kind of the age of the hand trap, where you are looking, I'm looking at these deck profiles, and I see people running, as many as like 8 hand traps sometimes in their main deck. There's like the triple Ghost Ogre and the triple Ash Blossom, and then the Max C, and then there's also sometimes people also taking in like Ghost Reapers and the Psy-Frame engine even, and just like on everything in between, right? You still see Veiler pop up here and there. You still see main deck DD Crow, Skullmeisters in some side decks. So I've also, by extension then, heard a lot of people say that like hand traps are the problem. Hand traps are broken, hand traps are unfair, hand traps are making the game, impossible to play because you face, say a Zodiac deck and it can do all this crazy stuff, and then because they've got all their hand traps, you aren't able to play in your own turn because you try to activate a search card and Ash Blossom hits you. You try to activate, some effect of a field spell or a monster and it gets Ghost Ogre. And, or like Ghost Reaper just takes all the copies of whatever your key extra deck monster is. I don't agree with that. I actually don't think that hand traps are really that big of an issue. Now, that being said, I think that they are a really powerful thing right now, and their effects are, potent. But I don't think that hand traps are ever the direct reason why a person wins or loses in Yu-Gi-Oh! You could like talk about this for like ages and get really deep into it, but I think just on the simple answer for me is that hand traps never like really win you the game. They'll help you like kind of stop your opponent, but I equate them to negation in general, or even removal in general, right? Raigeki is a powerful card, for example, but Raigeki alone will not win you a game. If my opponent has 5 really strong monsters on the board, and I top deck Raigeki and destroy all of them, that's great, but if I have nothing past that, that Raigeki did not win me the game. It didn't deal any damage to my opponent, it didn't summon a monster from my deck. It's not really doing anything like that. And, same goes for things like maybe Forbidden Chalice, right? Or Breakthrough Skill. Those are cards that answer what your opponent does, maybe stops them, but they're not going to be winning you the games. It's still kind of your deck and its monsters and its combos and its strategies. And I think that the real thing that maybe people are getting confused about here is that the Zodiac deck is very powerful. So whenever you're able to make a field of, Dridents, right, and these other monsters, then the hand traps can feel like a really tough line of extra defense, right? So you're staring down this Drident, and then also when you try to counterplay it, you get Ash Blossomed, or you get DD Crowed, or just something annoying, Max C happens. And I think that hand traps, that's when they're at their most powerful, is when they're backing up an already strong deck. So, alone, hand traps just aren't going to do anything. And I think that that becomes more apparent when you look lower on the tier list. So top tier decks will always make something like Max C and stuff feel really strong. But when you're playing it in maybe a slower paced deck or a lower tier deck, drawing, Ghost Ogre, drawing Effect Veiler, drawing Ash Blossom can actually kind of dilute a deck's consistency in a way. If you're running a deck that doesn't get lots of draws from Daigusto Emerald and Thoroughblade, or, like all those crazy things like that, I don't think that hand traps really become as big of an issue then. Because in those cases, rather than seeing a hand trap, I think that your average lower or mid-tier deck would just like to see its own combo pieces sooner. And, maybe have a hand trap there for protection, but generally speaking, it doesn't feel like, hand traps are winning them games. So, that being said, hand traps right now they feel like they have a big influence on the game. They kind of are affecting how a deck is built. You definitely want to have outs to some of them in particular, and cards that can get around certain hand traps are, kind of preferred right now. Obviously, Dragonic Diagram's like good against Ash Blossom because, it still stays in the field, for example. And, people are using maybe cards like My Body as a Shield as a way to stop a Ghost Ogre that would destroy their, Drident or something like that. But I don't think that the hand traps are the problem. I just think that they're another layer, another element of the game, and an honestly pretty cool one. Like, the hand traps aren't spamming the board with monsters, so, you know, when people complain about Yu-Gi-Oh! Being too fast, I don't think that hand traps are contributing to that problem. I actually feel like in some ways they kind of make Yu-Gi-Oh! Just feel more interactive. It's just another thing you have to watch out for that your opponent can do, another way that you can interact with them. Now, I know that the counter argument there would be, well, yeah, but like hand traps are really tough to actually react to because, you know, generally it's easy to MST a set trap, but something that's in the hand, it's just kind of harder to hit. And I get that, but that kind of to me is just part of today's Yu-Gi-Oh! Game. I like hand traps. I don't run 8 of them in every deck, but you know, I think that they're a lot of fun. I try to incorporate them where I can, and I try to, when I'm playing, you know, be cognizant of the fact that this play could be ruined by a Ghost Ogre. And that's alright. And I mean, all of them have their weaknesses as well. You know, Ghost Ogre, it only destroys, it doesn't actually negate effects. So if a monster gets Ghost Ogre, it'll still usually be able to resolve its effect. You know, an Ash Blossom can only be used once per turn. So even though she's very flexible, if you know, use Ash Blossom on your opponent's terraforming, but they have a second terraforming, then, you know, that was just kind of a not so great 1-for-1. And Effect Railer's always been a neg. You know, DD Crow's mostly a neg. It can kind of be a 0 at times. I think that if anything, maybe Max C could be considered a problem card, and I wouldn't be maybe surprised if that just got banned, but that's not really for the hand trapness, because it's not like a response thing. It's just it's a different discussion for a different day, but I think that hand traps in general are actually pretty healthy. I don't think that they're the problem. I think that they're a unique aspect of Yu-Gi-Oh! That we don't need to really be like trying to get limited and banned and stuff, except Max C. So, yeah, those are my thoughts on that. Let me know what you guys think. I know that hand traps are, you know, kind of a point of contention right now, but I really don't think that they're as bad as people say. That's going to be it for the video. In the video plugs. If you like this shirt and you want to get your own, support Team APS, you can check out the video description, buy one from Teespring. It's a great way to support us. I'm also giving away a box of Battles of Legend Light's Revenge, which is a really, really awesome set with some really good reprints. So thanks to TCG Player, I'm going to be giving away a box to a lucky winner. If you want to enter that, check out the link in the description as well. And you can follow me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter, thumbs if you liked it, subs if you loved it, new vids every day. That's going to be it. I'll see you guys in the next one.